So, what motivated you to start data science and motivated you to start AI? And when
At that time, it was more of motivation, I would say. It was my dad's choice basically. So I applied like around 200 to 250 companies, which is so common right now, but it was like a big task for me on during that period. For a fresher, if they are looking for an internship, I would definitely suggest some basic, fundamental, foundational certifications. Talking about going back to Android's ways and deep learning, which involves mathematics, which involves the basic understanding.
can you give us brief introduction about yourself?
Okay, so yeah, I I start from the pretty ways with the walked into data science. So I did actually NSC Data Science. It was a 5-year integrated study. Here in Tamil Nadu, they call it in Coimbatore Institute of Technology. And yeah, so my first intro to data science was actually I wanted to do cybersecurity after finishing my 12th standard, and that time there was no UGDP or India. We had to go to other US or something. And my parents didn't allow it. So we're looking at the alternative opportunity.
Actually, excuse me, your voice is kind of hazy. Yeah.
Is it, uh, once again, I'll just check with you like one.
Okay. Is everyone can hear her clearly? Folks, respond.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, you're okay, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Uh, I think maybe the mic's position. Okay. Um, yeah, so as I was saying, I wanted to do cybersecurity, and when there was no opportunity over here, then we shifted to data science. We got into the program, which was a 5-year integrated study, which had like two internships. Uh, the one on the 8th sem and was another one on the no, one was in the 7th sem, and another one was in 8th sem. uh, I did my internships in Genpact. First internship was in Genpact, then 1 year college, then my 10th internship was at a startup called Beatsphere in Chennai, and I worked there for a year. Took some break. Then I worked with Boo World. It was actually a dating app, and I was working as a data analyst, also as a senior data scientist. And after that, I shifted to Coimbatore. There I studied in college, and I wanted to be here. Then for some personal reasons, then I took a job over here, which was 50% uh, education academics and 50% product discussion. We went to colleges. We talked about data science and AI, what we do right after plus and right after college. How do you enter into here? And we got into programs where data science could be taught to school studies like curriculum 6, and how could that be broken down? And yeah, so we did a research study, and now next month I'm moving on to a different company, a data platter, basically a service based startup again. And yeah, so I'm on the that is my journey so far.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you shifted from cybersecurity to data science. So, what motivated you to start data science? I mean, who motivated you to start AI? And when did you
So
start
that
exactly?
at that time, it was more of a motivation, I would say. It was my dad's choice basically. So here there's an author called Anton Prakasi. He used to write like, small articles in Tamil based mat sorry, a book. And he was inspired by data science. He was inspired by the article. So he wanted me to pursue. He convinced me that. And when I gave the interview, HOD also thought like I would be better in data science rather than in cybersecurity. yeah, so that's how I got into data science. But my inspiration towards it, or me wanting to stay in data science, happened after my seventh internship. So what I did is actually for the seventh internship, we were the first batch in our college. Like it was very new having data science in academics. The B curriculum or an annual university curriculum was not sanctioned at that time. So since we were the first batch, we had to, go talk to companies and bring them in and go attend interviews. So I wanted the real time experience. So I walked out of the college places and went to talk with other companies. So I applied like around 200 to 250 companies, which is so common right now, but it was like a big task for me on that during that period. And I got called back only from 20 something companies, which seems to be fair, looking back right now. And giving to interviews to 20 companies and talking with them about data science, making myself like learn, like self learning actually motivated me, getting to know about like the advanced needs. And mostly I like to code, and that's why I took cybersecurity. So learning about models and tuning it and getting the predictions in, no, most probably fine tuning, actually hyperparameter tuning, okay, uh, made me, yeah, that's something that I would like to do for like that's how it inspired me. After that, 20 giving up in 20 interviews, and I got back like 5 offers in Anna Center. Uh, yeah, so Genpact also did good for me. It was basically a data science research internship, where we would learn about different models and bring in the academic perspective to the workers, right, to employees. Right.
So your first internship was about writing content about machine learning deep learning, right?
Uh, First, no. It was not about writing. I will say like content. I mean,
Documentation.
writing content. Sorry.
Documentation is a writing.
Um. Yeah. Could say documentation? Yes. I wasn't doing any deployment work, but I did do a comparison study with
Metrics.
model implementation. Yes. Yeah.
Right, Mike. So we were in your what semester when you got the first semester, my first internship,
It was in seventh semester.
seventh semester. But so how did you get it? I mean, did you create some projects? What was your resume like when you got your first internship?
It was pretty basic, I would say. Yeah. Uh, I developed a code for linear regression, and it was from class, and that was my first project at resume. And yeah, so I did some internal college competitions on SQL and something, and that was also in my resume. And I think more than my resume, um, the first call initiated the okay, there might be something I could be worth to them. And but it within the 20 companies, which I mean, the 5 companies I got converted, I got the offer. Uh, I think more the conversations were more important. After that first call, they wanted me to talk more, and they wanted me to do some tasks and give it to them. Like, would I be able to uh, do the work there? And yeah, and uh, more than my resume, the tasks I did. Talked to me. It made my pitch.
Okay. So the first so you did basically a linear regression project and a SQL competition to get a percentage. But currently, if yeah, what advice you would give currently in the year of 2025? What advice would you like to give if someone is trying to get an internship in AI and machine learning? I mean, the current trend is currently competitive, right? So, what advice, what projects should he or she build right now?
So for a fresher, if they are looking for an internship, I would definitely suggest some basic fundamental foundational certifications. talking about going back to android, some deep learning, which involves mathematics, which involves the basic understanding. That would be a must. Like even when I'm right now in a position where I could hire interns. Like I go for that in first thing in the resume. Yeah. So moving on from certifications, from basic certifications, I would also include some projects where I develop a model, and more than the model, the doc, the insights they gather from the model. Are they your resume wouldn't depict at the actual insights, but the three lines small description you write about the project would tell you like how exactly how how good are you with implementing a certain model. Are you good enough to work with the end-to-end project or something like that? So yeah, so I would say this like any basic model like SVM, random forest implementation is must, but rather than the implementation, what problem statement for what problem they have implemented as a time. What are the insights they have gained from the particular model? A resume, explaining this would be a top priority on my filtering list. And yeah, other than the projects and the basic certifications, I would also look for if there are any competitions they have won or events they have participated, technical events, and how good they are. Like, I would also see like the skill set being ranked according to either to the requirement that any company is looking for, or sorted in the order of the job requirement, or according to the expertise. It would be easier for me to go through the space set, right? So yeah, I would do that, and SQL and Python would be a must for anyone in data.
So what is the interview process like? I mean, what the company expects from an intern? What types of questions are asked in the interview process? I mean, for the internship as well as for the fresher who is searching for job as well. So is DSA required when data structures and algorithm required at all?
Okay, I am a person who is a little bit weak on Max, and I am not a traditional data scientist. So I didn't learn the data structures or algorithm. I hated it even in my college and stuff. So yeah, so if you ask me, it is a must when you are looking for a job in product based company, because they need the efficiency that comes from data structures and algorithms. But yeah, if you're in a service based company where you could scale your learning from time to time, then I would say that that's something you could learn on the job. It's not a mandatory thing. If your job requires it, if your project requires it, you could acquire the skill on the go.
That's great. Okay, coming to the an off topic question. I mean, AI is constantly evolving, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so much things are coming up, like the recent DeepSeek came up. So how do you keep up with the trend? What resources you follow? What podcasts you listen to?
Uh, yeah, I think talking to college students or freshers, that keeps me updated, I guess. Um, Yeah, so and also the one thing technically keeps me going on is the LinkedIn feeds from Data Science Central and towards data science. That sort of community or network is a must for like whoever wants to read more on data science. And every time, I mean, from time to time, I would give interviews. I would go through the companies, the people in company, the articles they write about, the projects they're currently working on. I think that gives me the current updates.
That's great. And regarding the first job you got in the field of AI, so what was the year back then? I mean, you got your first AI job in which year? Data science job in which year?
I think it's 2018 probably. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could check my resume. Yeah. 17, 80. Yeah.
Yeah, that's way back. I mean, you graduated in which year?
Uh, no, it's a 5 year degree, right? So I have 3 years of experience now. No,
I mean, 5 years of 5 year degree. I mean, it's BTech plus MTech.
no, I did a part time internship. So that was my. I don't usually mention it anywhere. Yeah, so that was my thing. Like it was an implant training. Being followed by an internship. Yeah, it was in second year or something. Mhm.
Okay. So you did a BTech, right?
No, MSc. MSc
MS.
data science.
Okay,
Yeah.
MSc in data science from bachelor's to MSc in
No,
bachelor's.
no. After 12th, I joined directly MSc. It was an integrated style.
Okay, it was an integrated 3+2.
Yeah, yeah. It's not even actually Pin plus two. It's straight five. We don't get the UG degree now.
That's nice. I mean, that's not traditional. I mean, folks currently do BTech, then even MTech, then think about joining data science source.
Yeah, I think thinking about that, there is a con and a pro. And so in uh, when I joined GenPaths, I met others who was been working in data science without a proper degree, but almost nearly a decade. Like during my first internship at Genpact, it was around 18, 19, I guess, yeah, around that period. Um, yeah, for those employees, or when I talked to them, they had the domain specific knowledge. They did their mechanical degree, civil degree, whatever it is. They were preferred by the product based company to work in data science rather than just me working on data science or knowing only data science knowledge. So yeah, on a competition, on a if in a pool data science students are picked, or anyone has to be picked for data science job, preferentially a person with data science degree would be picked. But if it's a particular specific job where it requires domain specific knowledge more than the on job training you could acquire from data, it anyone with a prior degree who's done like BTech, mechanical, electronics, or EC, anything would be picked, would be prioritized. And I think I even now I see that trend. Even now, like for freshers, like for who does BCom, studying BCom and do a certification in data science is prioritized over a person who did BSc data or MSc data. Yeah, MSc data science. I have seen that like in a company here that I can't mention right now. They prioritize the person from the BCom background, BCom BA. He would learn the commerce along with business analytics. And there was another person who did MSc data science. Her age was BS in data science or something, and MSc data. So there were competition between them, and he was chosen for the same reason because he has a financial background. Yeah.
So right after 12, you started a degree of data science when data science was not popular.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, so right. So you're talking about cybersecurity. So you're choosing after 12 only. What to choose, data science or cybersecurity?
I'm sorry, pardon me. Can you repeat it?
I mean, you were telling in the beginning that you are very interested in cybersecurity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could have just gone through. I mean, it was after 12 when you were interested in cybersecurity. It was just after
Yeah.
12, class 12.
Yes, class one. Yes.
Okay.
So, uh, I think my parents always gave me the choice of what I want to do, and go, completing 11th and 12th, and I had some computer science classes I wanted to do. I think it's jumped. I did NATA exam. I gave NATA exam during my 11th standard, and I couldn't draw. That was like way out of my wake up out of me. And yeah, so after NATA, I took a break. No thinking about career. Just do your 12th, and it will come to you. And do concentrating on the 12th, and I missed working in computer, learning about computer science or programming. My first was C or C++, I guess. I would love the revision hours of that comes for computer science, and I hated when it came for max for any other science degree in science subject. And yeah, so I realized, okay, my computer science is my cup of tea, in which in particular I would do like when I did my research after 12, after giving my board exams. Cybersecurity, I think it clicked me more. Even now, when I talk about cybersecurity, or when I read an article about cybersecurity, I get the chills and I really enjoy working. I think I might do some certifications on cybersecurity with it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the future, there might be a cross section between cross domain between AI and cybersecurity.
Yes, yeah. They do. I mean, there are multiple papers, journals published regarding the crossover, but it's not like a proper commercialized area or domain.
It's a niche, you can say.
Yeah, I would say.
Yes, I mean, and that's great. So, folks from the attendees who have joined, you can ask her questions of your choice regarding AI, machine learning, deep learning you are facing right now, the problems you are facing right now. So, the maximum folks here joined are currently first, second years.
Oh, okay, okay.
That would be great. So, anyone have any question? I should ask questions to her.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Subham, any questions? Sachin, you can ask her questions. Rupam, are there no questions? I mean, you can ask her what projects to create. Yeah, I guess Subham has question. You can definitely ask her. And you kindly unmute yourself, Subham. Uh, Madam, I have a question. Madam, to start the career in the data science, what is the best way to start the career in data science? What is the actual roadmap?
Okay. So before I answer your question right away, I uh, I would want you to run some Python programs, basic Python programs, and SQL games. Very basic. You can start from select star table and printing it in you know with the star pattern printing in Python. And I would like to I would want you to see if you really like it. If data science, you could work with data science. And moving on from starting with Python and SQL basics, you could read about how ML model works. And if you really, only if you really enjoy it, you can work on it on a daily basis. And to answer your question, uh, I would Python and SQL, learning it from foundation to being an intermediate on the expertise level would be great for starters. And yeah, I would urge you to read about you. I am more of an old school person. If you could read on the complete data science book or complete Python or complete, there used to be a series called complete C++, complete Java, something like that. I still like the complete Python or complete machine learning series of it. And yeah, so also the I don't remember the exact publication, but I could refer it to you and send it to you. Saurabh and Saurabh can share it. So I would also ask you to read some books on machine learning models so that you can not just understand its business perspective, rather than you can understand how it mathematically works. So even if you're not from a mathematical background, if you could tell what mean actually means, what is the difference between mean and median, actually tells you what it narrates to you. If you can build up a story around data and the statistics and mathematics involved with it, uh, you are on a good path, or you're on the track for towards data. And Python, SQL, statistics. After that, I would move with the basic ML models. Even though it's pre-trained, AI models have come, like most of it. To understand and work with them, to mainly fine tune it, you need the basic understanding it. ML, how each model has been evolved, how it has been trained so far, what is the traditional way of doing an ML. And but if you want to kickstart quick, you need a quick start. I would suggest like learning some more code analytic platforms like text to SQL AI, mostly AI, and yeah. So there are AI platforms tools where you can use no code at all, but still you could be in the data analytics firm. You can enter the job world with the no code zone, and you can equip yourself with code basics of ML while you're on the job. I wouldn't say waste your time on getting up to walking up the ladder. Rather, get a job in data science, have some experience, and along with gaining the experience, we need to learn and equip yourself. It will be a mismatch, or it will be tough, like for the first 6 months. But after it, you'll enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you can survive it for the next decade or two. That's it. I think I have answered your question. I don't know if I deviated from your question. Did I answer your question, sir? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And the next question comes from Paushali. Paushali, you can unmute yourself and pass the question.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi. Please call me Swana. No need to answer.
Okay. I need to know. I'm a first year student, by the way, and I am also thinking about data science and all this cool stuff. So I want to know what exhausts you the most about this world. What is the most exhausting part?
Okay. So much, like mostly 75%. When we grew up as kids, we tend to seek the acknowledgement and appreciation on the small tasks that we do on a daily basis, right? But when we come into a work zone, there will be no one to appreciate you, or you will have times where you can't self appreciate. Okay, done, Swana, you did great. We'll move on to the next task. We'll move on to the next tool. Okay, you have done it. I think that's the most exertion part. Like, I don't know where to stop, learn a tool or technique or a language. I always go so deep that I exhaust myself with the knowledge. And sometimes, I would be working on it over like continuously for hours, like overnight. But after a week or so, I would have so much knowledge that I can't like replicate it on my project, on work on a daily basis. So I would take a gap period where I could learn something, divert myself. Then when I restart, resume my work, everything comes to my mind. The learnings, and uh, I would say if in you or anyone would not want to get lost with the tools, a list of tools, a list of techniques that you have to learn and the depth in it, make a plan. Draw milestones. So this is the level of depthness you want to cover in a topic, and you can segregate it into 3 levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3, which is like the beginner, intermediate, and expert. Always take a break, a small break between the levels. Learn the beginner, practice it for a while, then take a very small break would be a week or something, and do not go into that arena, or practice the code or any technique. Do not read about it even. And before you start the intermediate level, revise, like this sit on yourself and do some coding. There's no need for a predefined questions or anything. Just whatever comes to your mind, code it or implement it anywhere, or anything, and start your intermediate level. Then you'll understand, like, okay, like there will be connections where you can link from the techniques you learned from beginner phase, and you can implement it in the intermediate, and it will be an easy go. Once you complete the intermediate level that you have defined, take a longer break than the one you took for the previous gap. Once you're done with that, do some real projects. Do not walk into an expert level of knowledge or more than what you could hold in your mind. do some projects, have some real time practical experiences. If you could take on some, there are some projects certification in Coursera. I don't remember with it. There is one project called Langchain I did recently, and yeah, that kind of projects could give you, could cover the basics, could give you the practice on the intermediate that you have not. Now could also give you a gist about what will be there in the expert or what could be there in the expert, and stop it there. Do not go into the expert level until you are ready. And if for someone who like me, if you're comfort with so much knowledge, if you process your mind well and good. But for me, I would stop there, and only when the work or project that I'm currently working on requires me to learn the expert phase, I would go in it. So that's the methodology I've learned, and I think my friends, when I talk about, yeah. So since I study data science, all my friends work in data science, so we talk about it a lot. And yeah, this method I've been working with them.
Thank you, ma'am. It's actually very helpful. I'll try it.
Sure.
Any other folks having any questions? Don't hesitate to ask her any questions. Okay, Dheeraj will ask you question. Okay, good evening, ma'am. First, sorry for texting. Actually, I want to know what are you doing right now? It means what type of job are you doing? I mean, I guess he wants to ask what is your day-to-day activities like?
Oh, okay. Okay. So currently, my day today is not defined properly. I on Saturday and Sunday I would teach corporate people data science to corporate people. And mostly there my method of teaching would be hands-on. And the hands-on is not like simple practice problems or small things. I would take up every time I wouldn't walk into a class without a new data set. I would practice on it, and I'll tell them what could be done, what could be done. In every data science, in every data set, there will be some different logic that we could apply in the data cleaning and pre-processing, so that I want them to have the most scaled experience for them. Like and during the weekdays, I used to. I mean, I am working with freshers and who is like second years, third years, and final years. And to some who has like from different domains, they would have taken a year of gap, but still they're freshers, right? So yeah, so for them, I would start with basics. Like I would have, let's say, let's get a technique, export overpopulating the minorly populated clouds. I would take some small data sets, scenarios. Basically, I would give them the practice problem. Like I would make them practice for 5 more scenarios for the same technique. But what I do in the Saturday Sunday for the corporate people is that like I give them an entirely different data set so that they could learn on the flow. They'll learn. They'll do the end-to-end process on every weekend, on every class. Here, I'll take multiple examples for simple techniques, and I would be deciding the person on what has to be the next step. And yeah, so I would have the calls with my manager's management, where we discuss what are the flow of programs that we have designed there, how it's been received. We have the scrum calls, and yeah, and then we don't have the client calls on a daily basis. And on the days when I go to talk with college students, I would revise myself with a few the referred books. Let's say I'm talking on ML, I would take up recently the I would take up the Anna University's recent preferred textbook. I would go through some exercises that's being in the book, and I would do that. And if I'm taking up a workshop for in a company, for if it's an FDP, I would go through and revise myself on the recent projects or recent happenings on the particular task. If I'm talking about AI, I would read about the recent LLMs, what are the recent development on it. Yeah, that really depending on the listeners or depending on the audience, I would learn about the requirements.
Okay, now Sachin, thanks for answering. Now Sachin wants to ask another question. Sachin, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
So, good evening, Surendra. So, I will just ask, like, will generative AI replace the traditional ML and the deep learning stuff? Because right now, generative AI is quite trending. So, what are your takes from regarding this question? So, please,
Um,
yeah.
I think it would make a huge impact on the traditional method of ML training, but I wouldn't say it will completely take over because there is no way we have lost our grounds with the high tech developments right now, right? Even now, I get so many glitches from the. I use the premium version of the paid version of GPT or Gemini, and I still get the glitches and still get the wrong information. So I still on a daily basis I get the biased answers or responses. I need to refine it. I need to talk it out. Like I do a class for prompt engineering, and I've been learning on the prompting techniques. And I think chain of thoughts is a must. Anybody who talks to Gen AI has to learn. So, given the inaccuracies or given the uh, there no spray, given the current situation, I would say it's gonna take a longer period, not just like a few years or something. Maybe maybe over 2 decades, the traditional method of ML would be in a way lesser influence would make a way lesser contribution. Maybe it will be like 20% of only 20% the companies or people who is in data science practice traditional ML, and 80% would be is using the AI. That ratio would be achieved or attained only in 2 decades. Maybe it's my essential prediction.
Yeah, so thank you, Surendra, for your quite amazing answer.
One second. If I can, I would like to add one more point. There is one music director in Tamil Nadu who was just chatting with his colleagues. Recently sort of. He's one of our clients I work with, and he told us like this incident. And when he was chatting with his colleagues, and they wanted a flute's note for a song. But if they are to test with that flute note, they have to hire a person. It definitely cannot be done on the same day. So they can only hire a person for the next day, and the recording will be done only after the next day's evening. So the actual note they can listen to will be ready only after a 2 day period, which is a 48 hours period. So instead of waiting, one of his colleagues suggested why not be generated with AI and try it out. And when they did, it was actually amazing, and they did end up using it in a cinema song. And yeah, so it cost the uh, you know a days of income for the flute person who they might have hired if AI didn't exist. But still, uh, AI played a vital role. But what Gibran, his name is Gibran, said was if he knows a person who he could hire and has the knowledge where they can use AI and create a flute tone, or if the same flute person has the knowledge of AI usage, he definitely go for that person rather than going to AI himself, because they had like a number of revisions, back and forth conversations to get the more than enough good flow tone note or something. Yeah, so there are two perspectives right here. Like, of course, AI has taken over on a small level, but still people need the accuracy for a human contact. Yeah, I think that's the simple thing I want to go ahead.
But amazing answer. Okay. I mean, AI is currently constantly evolving, and for the use cases which we use AI is also changing. I mean, from the recommendation system of Netflix to the basic things like autonomous vehicles, they're all increasing, right? I mean, the use cases are increasing. Everything is changing. The world is Jada was degree. Okay, ever since the boom with ChatGPT, ever since the rise of ChatGPT, AI is the hype, and it's there are thousands of research papers are coming each step. When hundreds and thousands of research courses are coming, it's difficult to follow up. And that was Swarna, that was the amazing answer. Okay, how the flute. So it was a flute tune, right?
Yeah, it was a flute. No.
Yeah. So how AI was used in such case. Thanks for the answer. From the attendees, any other questions we would like to ask? Pidisha, Dhiraj, Jajit, Huli. No more questions. What about Prukam, Saheli, Debangan? There any questions? I guess they are not having questions right now. Yes. Let's sum up then. Let's sum up and let's conclude this session. I mean, it's amazing, Sarna. You find a time out of your yeah. Anshul is asking before that. Let's hear his questions. How can we get started in this particular domain as a beginner? What to master from first year? I guess he's asking as a first year student what things you should be more focusing on.
Mm-hmm. In which domain?
On machine learning, obviously for machine learning.
Yes. Machine learning. Okay. So, yeah, I think maybe you could, if you're in first year and there is no rush in the work, I would ask you to make the ground, foundational well laid on. I would ask you to start with statistics with the very beginning. I remember for there's like I don't know if I remember theorems, but there's estimation need. Estimations, right? There's one particular estimation theorem which we use for simulation for in a statistics class. Yeah, I would ask you to start with like simple statement where you could applied statistics basically. Once you're good on it, good on statistics, then you could move on with Python and SQL. Learn how to apply the statistics using the programming languages and what are the analytics that you could do with SQL. And I would then start right away. Then you can start reading about AI and machine learning models. Then work on it. Recently, I for a class, I created a website or some radio page basically, where the students could enter the prompt about a particular data set, and they could get the answers right. The prompt will be converted into an SQL query, and the SQL query will be run on the data set in Python again, and the answer will be popped in the same page. So this was a in class activity for an in class activity. But to develop this, like the conversion thing, it hardly took me like an hour or something. Would maybe so if I could develop it in a hour for an in class activity, there are like millions of people who's putting so much money and time to bring an efficient AI based software. So if you're a first year, after laying the foundations good, I would ask you to take a jump, read about the current softwares, mostly AI. Those are some recent, that been currently using with my friends right now. When you come up, like when if you're in a first year, you're gonna need a job in fourth year or final year, right? So what, like on that particular time after 3 years, I would want you to read about the current tools there are, I think, and how to work with it, how to do some basic projects. Keep it hands on, like whatever data set you could see, whatever interests you, do some projects on it. And yes, that will be a good way to start from first year to have length of period 4 years. Good time, like enough time. There will be an ample time to leisurely learn about things.
The Anshul is asking right now what specific tools we can start learning.
Some cloud platforms would be really good, because wherever you develop a model or you need to pre-train it, you need to scale it on a cloud platform, right? So any cloud like Azure, GCP, or AWS would be great. And wherever you go, if you're working in a service-based company, there will be clients saying like, I need a traditional dashboard. I want to see my business like grow or something. So beyond Ruby analytics and having a tool like Tableau or Power BI would be great. And for SQL you could uh, use basics. MySQL is fine for now. And other than that, I would also ask if you can learn about the big data, Spark, Hive, or Scala, any big data group in our language. And a cloud platform, a cloud certification probably, and basic languages along with a BA tool, 1 or 2 BI tools would be great.
BI tools like Power BI, Lab.
Yeah, Power BI, Tableau, Google Analytics.
So, Ushali and Dhiraj are asking about how ChatGPT has all the information. I mean, can I ask something? How the developer of AI chatbot like ChatGPT have, yeah, chatbot, Grok have all the information fed into them. I mean, if you ask something, they will answer, right? How they have all the information in the world.
Okay. So when I studied about, a machine learning model could learn from data and it could predict something, I imagine that what if Google is a completely open source platform where anyone could feed information into it and anyone in the world could read about it, right? So what if Google makes an machine learning model where it could learn all the info that is being fed into it, like, and wait, so basically, every data, every unstructured data, which could be processed into a structured one, and there's a trick. That's the trick there. Most of the data is still unstructured. So yeah, so whatever unstructured data that's being out in the world, that could be structured, like columnized, broken down into columns and rows, where it could be converted numerically and fed into a model. When it comes to a model, it's still a black box. You can never really say this is how it works. Transparency is something that's being built right now. It's emerging right now. Transparent AI, explainable AI. They call it XAI, I guess. Yeah. So that's something that's currently emerging, and it would take a few years. Maybe when you search jobs, explainable AI would be on the board. You could understand how the black box actually works. Right now, yes. So it basically understand what is the connection between the features and the targets, or what could be the targets, or between multicollinearity, basically whatever connection, the patterns that exists between columns and between the rows, which is like happened before, and what could be the features. The patterns are the answers, or the keys. The patterns will be triggered with keywords. Like that's why prompt engineering is one of the emerging skill set right now. Yeah, so there are prompting techniques which we could use to kindle the knowledge of it or the patterns that it has learned. It will basically learn how a particular column 1 and column 2 are related, and it could store it anywhere. It could store in an LSD node, I mean, in the memory, local memory, and it retrieves it and it tells us. But this is the traditional process that has been done earlier. This is automated by an ML model. If it on the flow, on the training phase, it stores the data and it uses just the info it has been processed. But we are yet to know how it is storing, how it's being processed, the retrieval process. We are still yet to know that. I mean, I could say that to you if for an iris data set where it's 4 columns and 1 target, but for a generative AI model, GAN or autoencoders, they're still yet to uncover it.
So, Anna, for answering the question.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? Okay, yeah, you mentioned explainable AI, right? I mean, explainable AI is not is rising currently, is not in the mainstream. I mean, there might be many positions related to explainable AI in the future. So, it is being developed as a niche, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Like the
I think I just read an article about explainable AI recently for an interview. I don't have the entire knowledge on it. I'm not sure if I could talk about it. But yeah, it's something that uh, you know. I think that will pull in more people. Right now, those who could understand, those who is currently into data science are shifting towards AI, or for freshers who are forced by their parents, or they're taking AI. But something like explainable AI, anybody who's been working on a different domain for decades, they could convert their job into AI. They could actually understand how everything is working and how to talk with an AI. When the time comes where AI enters into homes and it's like on a daily basis, everybody who is a non-tech or tech person will be interacting with AI. That will be something be very useful, be very knowledgeable for anyone. Uh, but I'm still, then I need to know more facts about it to talk about.
step. Folks, are you having any more questions? Or conclude this session? Yes, if I'm having questions. Isharo, Acharo, Bopal, Viraj. Want you folks ask any question? Okay, I guess they don't have questions right now. So what है क्या मैं इनमें सवाल पूछ सकता हो? Swarna, do you understand Hindi?
I do a little bit, but I'm not fluent. Sorry.
Yeah, so she is not comfortable in Hindi. Dheeraj, if you can, just ask her in English. It would be great, man.
I mean, if you could ask me slowly, I'll understand it.
Okay, Dheeraj, you can ask us slowly back.
गुड इवनिंग मैम मैं फर्स्ट ईयर से हूँ मुझे जानना था अलोन मस्क के पास इतने सारे आइडियाज इतने सारे नॉलेजेस कहाँ से आए वो कि मुझे उनके बारे में जानना था कि वो इतने सारे नॉलेजेस कहाँ से गेन करते हैं जो वो इतनी चीज न्यू सर्च कर रहे हैं जो कोई ला नहीं पा रहा है एक्चुअली ये मुझे जानना था कि उनके पास ये सब आइडियाज आते कहाँ से
Okay. So how would I answer this? Our moms at home, they'll do something like they'll collect the bus wherever we go eat something, and whenever guests arrive, she uses it, and she'll use the leftover meal, or she'll cook something completely new that we would have never ate before. She would cook that for us, right? he is someone who is constantly been in kitchen, and he too has been brought up with the knowledge of understand how cooking works, or how the household has to be. And she, for her imaginations or her thought process revolves around the house. He doesn't know how to, be on her own outside the world, outside the home. But she knows every single, even if a pin is misplaced, she'll know that where it has been kept, who has kept it. Like, yeah, that's how Elon Musk is as well. He's been doing like research purpose, or he's an AI, mean, not exactly AI. I would say like he is a science enthusiast, tech enthusiast who lives with science, who lives by technology, who is inspired by technology on a daily basis, mainly when he grew up. I think he did his first UG in London, where his girlfriend's father, and him did some crazy science project. I think his girlfriend's father was not even a science tech person. He did a project because Elon Musk asked him to, and he convinced him to do that. And yeah, so it was, if you revolve around it, you grew up around technology, I think it comes on the go. It comes to the mind subconsciously. Your mind revolves, or your knowledge, entire knowledge revolves around science and technology, right? That's how his crazy ideas are born, and he is a madman who implements everything, who breathes science and tech.
Evidence. It can
Yeah.
be recently.
मैम एलोन मस्क के पास ज्यादा ताकत है या एआई के पास?
Pocket means what?
Power.
Means
Who is more powerful? Oh, that's, yeah, I'm asking.
एआई को एलोन मस्क बना रहा है, तो एलोन मस्क के पास ज्यादा पावर है या फिर एआई के पास?
I mean,
I think Elon Musk has more power, I guess. AI is not equipped enough to, follow the tracks of Elon Musk.
AI hallucinates more than Elon Musk, I can say.
Yeah, its temperature is a bit high.
Eh?
थैंक यू मैम.
Yes, essential. Obviously, Elon is right. He is using his brain. AI doesn't help, right?
Yeah, it doesn't happen. AI is giving out the information that has been trained upon, right?
Definitely. With the knowledge that our human brains have been processing it so far.
I like thinking about AI as Frankenstein. Frankenstein is created upon lots of dead creatures, and AI is created upon lots of information from different sources.
That's a good comparison. Twice.
True. So, any more questions, folks? Guys, any more questions? We will sum up this session. I guess they don't have any question. Let's sum up. I mean, it's been 1 hour since we started. Yeah. I guess thanks, Swarna, for joining us. So, joining Dave.com for a short session on AI, for a chill session on AI. We learned a lot of concepts from what was your experience, how did you get in the field of AI, which inspired us a lot. I mean, which inspired the first years, second years who are here right present in this call, and they are feeling motivated right now to just start learning about AI right now. I'm guessing that is the case. Okay. Thanks again for joining, for finding time out of your busy schedule. Yeah, Dheeraj is also saying maybe I will meet again. Yeah, you will meet again. Okay, definitely. Thanks and bye all. Bye, Swarna.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the time.
Bye.
Bye.